one last battle to hold the line against the night.
The line must be drawn here. This far, no farther.
Hold the line. No one gets through, no matter what.
Sir, what are your orders?
There's only one order, Lieutenant. Behold.
Incoming transmission.
Allied reinforcements have arrived from the west.
On Mojo 50 Radio. The Millennial Conservative Resistance begins right here, right now.
Oh, yes indeed, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the new Millennial Conservative Resistance does indeed begin right here, right now with you. You are listening to and hopefully watching the HoloNet on the mighty Mojo 50. Today is Saturday, the 13th of July in the year of our Lord 2019. And we're going to jump right into it. Taking a look at local news here in the great state of Arizona, where Mojo 50's forward operating base is located on the secretive outskirts of the Sonoran Desert. We have to report to you that last night there was a protest. Oh yeah, there was a protest in downtown Phoenix where some 16 people, according to local sources, have been arrested for blocking Central Avenue as well as the Phoenix light rail system. The debacle, the face-to-face protests, went on for over 2 hours. And we actually have video of that coming in from Facebook, courtesy Fox 10. There are some severe language issues, so I'm a little hesitant to play any because they kind of lapse into the, good old-fashioned ICE every couple of seconds. But let's see if we can just get a little bit. It's mostly like shots of legs, because the cameraman is clearly trying to keep the camera low as to not, get people's attention and result in any kind of an escalation, which I have to applaud him for. I really do. This is actually some good, solid camera work coming out of Fox 10 Phoenix. So let's go to that real quick, just so you can get a sense of what Phoenix PD was dealing with last night. And seriously, thank God for our boys and girls in blue. Thank God for our men and women of the police force and our defenders, our law enforcement officials. So we can see right here they're marching up Central Avenue. And it started out as a trickle, as these things normally do. And this again, video courtesy Fox 10 Phoenix. They're chanting, "Close the camps." I heard, "What if it was your kids?" I heard, of course, F ICE. And, a whole bunch of other classic chants. You can hear the helicopters going on in the background. And this is a major intersection in downtown Phoenix at about 9 o'clock local time. 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock local time. And there's going to be some language issues here, so I'm not going to play too much of it, but I'm going to fast forward a little bit so you can see. So here we have the lineup of Phoenix PD officers. Which side are you on? They're chanting, and a lot of reporters, people streaming it live. But, somebody just said, "Are you willing to take a bullet for this cause?" This is the kind of rampant stupidity that is actually being set loose upon the country today. And one thing that I heard that threw me over the edge, that had me incensed, I'm sitting next to my wife with our 3 little boys playing at our feet, and my wife's holding our little baby girl while I'm watching this. And they bust out the chant, "What if it was your kids? What if it was your kids?" My chant would be, "I'd be a criminal, because I'd be an irresponsible, horrible father for dragging my kids up one of the most treacherous journeys in all of the United States, and then having them, swim badly, probably, across a really difficult river, and then stumble through the desert for a couple of days, hoping you happen upon somebody who has some water. Now, we've been over this over and over and over again, but now, here we are. We have these protests happening in Phoenix, and oh, God, I really wish I could have gone down there. I really wish I could have managed this, but, got a family to take care of. And I don't need to be putting myself in that kind of risk either. Now, the video cuts out after 1 hour and 31 minutes before any arrests are made, but we find out later from AZ Family's David Barker, this is updated 43 minutes ago, 16 people were arrested on Friday night. Demonstrators were angry about the conditions of the migrant detention centers and Immigration and Customs Enforcement's roundups, those roundups which, by the way, are scheduled to begin tomorrow. The protest blocked traffic near downtown Phoenix and tied up the light rail. Now, I really wanted to play for you, but I can't clean up the language enough, where Phoenix PD is repeatedly warning these people, get out of the road, get off the light rail track. These people are standing on train tracks. I don't know if they were trying to do this in honor of Doc or not, but they're standing on the light rail tracks, blocking the train system from moving. How many states, how many cities would stand for that bull? Standing on train tracks and not permitting the train to move. Most of the time you stand on train tracks, you'll wind up dead. But no, they're blocking the Phoenix light rail as well. They assembled on Central Avenue north of McDowell outside of the ICE office. Sergeant Mercedes Fortune with the Phoenix Police Department said officers repeatedly asked participants to move from the road and the light rail tracks. But while most people complied, a small number of people from the group continued to ignore numerous requests and orders by the officers, and an unlawful assembly was established. People were chanting, "Close the camps, free our kids," in the reference to the migrant detention centers. Police officers were in riot gear telling people to get out of the road. Around 10:30, police made everyone get out of the street and started taking people into custody. Fortune says 14 people were arrested for unlawful assembly and obstructing a public thoroughfare. So they allowed this to go on for 2 hours. I want to applaud the patience and fortitude of the Phoenix PD not letting this get out of hand. They did not escalate. However, if I may respectfully input my opinion, this should have been allowed to go on for no more than 30 minutes once those people entered the road. No more than 30 minutes. 2 hours of choking one of the city's main thoroughfares and shutting down a light rail line, I think was giving them a little too much rope. There's being patient and there's waiting out a situation. I think that they should have gone in and made those arrests probably 30 minutes in. But, I'm not a police officer. I don't work in crowd control. But I do know that if you give a mouse a cookie, they're going to ask for a glass of milk. Now, me, it's more like you give me a cup of coffee, and I'm going to ask for some more. Because I like coffee. And I also like really good coffee. And I like American Pride Roasters. American Pride Roasters, the official coffee of Mojo 50. You can get so many different APR coffees out there. I've been looking at this. By the way, APR coffee, still looking for HoloNet fuel to be created. I'm waiting for that glorious day. But I was actually looking at this the other day. I'm ordering some because I had some when I was down at Mojo 50 Studios back in April, and it was fantastic. It's the official coffee of Doc Thompson's Daily Mojo, the Conservative Cartel, and the Mojo 50 Network. Izzo's Rage, I heard, is really good. On the Roof, $20, same as downtown, I heard is good. Cartel Bold, I've actually tried. Cartel Bold is particularly strong. It's a really nice coffee. But what I am most excited to try, I am excited to try the little coffee drops that they have. Because I love those things. But, yeah, American Pride Roasters. Get on AmericanPrideRoasters.com. Check that out today. No promo code or anything crazy. It's just American Pride Roasters, the official coffee of Mojo 50. So moving from there, we talked a little bit about the protests that are going on in Phoenix. Let's talk a little bit... Excuse me. about another piece of Arizona news that's caught a lot of attention. Arizona Governor Doug Ducey apparently has had a change of heart since July 4th, and it's no longer en vogue to be patriotic. He tweeted to Nike that we don't need to suck up to companies that consciously denigrate our nation's history after Nike pulled back on releasing shoes that featured the Betsy Ross flag. Okay, Nike is building a large facility in the city of Goodyear here in the West Valley of Phoenix, Arizona. So, he initially tweeted last week that he was ordering the state's Commerce Authority to, quote, withdraw all financial incentive dollars for Nike to build their plant in the city of Goodyear. His decision followed the sneaker company's announcement that it would not produce a new 4th of July shoe featuring Betsy Ross's flag for the 13 colonies after former NFL quarterback and loser Colin Kaepernick reportedly expressed concern over its historic representation of the nation's racist legacy, which is complete and total bull because Betsy Ross was actually an abolitionist. I digress. So Ducey pulled back any state funding from the Commerce Authority to go to Nike. Now, he's apparently welcoming them with open arms, according to this story. They say Ducey has now suggested a change of heart after Nike said in a Thursday new release that its Nike Air Manufacturing Innovation Facility will generate more than 500 full-time jobs and result in an investment of at least $184 million in Goodyear. Hiring will begin immediately, the company added. He said this is good news for Arizona. That was 500 plus jobs, over 184 million in capital investment. Arizona is open for business, and we welcome Nike to our state. The Arizona Commerce Authority, a private economic development agency, also touted the deal. Ducey's office did not immediately respond to a request to hear about his parent flip-flop over Nike. Despite the governor's initial tweets blasting Nike, local officials were happy to see the company, considered the world's largest sneaker maker according to Forbes, get a foothold in the state. Goodyear Mayor Georgia Lord said, "We will honor the commitment we made in our agreement," in a statement last week after the city council unanimously approved a job creation agreement with Nike. Nike's decision to cancel the shoe design for its special edition of the Air Max 1 Quick Strike was done, quote, based on concerns that it could unintentionally offend and detract from the nation's patriotic holiday, a spokesman previously said. So, here's where Governor Doug Ducey found himself. You know, he found himself on both sides of this argument. Number one, he wanted to chide Nike. Number two, he still has to carry on and be cordial to them because they are coming into Arizona and becoming a large business nonetheless. So you get this. You get what appears to be a flip-flop where he's kind of talking out of both sides of his mouth. On the one side, he's saying that, you know, it's an unpatriotic display. On the other side, he still has to work with them. So I'm reading this. Yeah, I get where they're saying it's a flip-flop, but it's also the governor being a governor. You know, you got to make nice. You have to continue working with people despite the fact that you disagree with them. So I don't see really where NBC is coming off attacking him for this. Granted, it doesn't look great, but you got to do what you got to do to get business done. And at the same time, from a libertarian and from a conservative perspective, why is a company like Nike getting sweetheart deals from the city of Goodyear and from the state of Arizona anyway? All government is supposed to do is create an environment that is attractive for businesses to come in. There shouldn't be incentive dollars. I mean, I don't need the city and the state and the county walking up to these big businesses and making it rain all day. Oh, hang on, I can actually do that. Making it rain. It's not money. These are actually spoony business cards, but still. They shouldn't be running at these businesses and making it rain in order to get them to build. You should have an attractive enough tax outcome, an attractive enough regulatory scheme in order to bring in these companies and not require you showering them in, what did he call it? Let me see here. Incentive dollars. Financial incentive dollars. He was very strong the other day, saying instead of celebrating American history, the week of our nation's independence, Nike has apparently decided that Betsy Ross is unworthy and has bowed to the current onslaught of political correction of correctness and historical revisionism, adding that Arizona's economy is doing just fine without Nike. We don't need to suck up to companies that consciously denigrate our nation's history. Well, no, you don't need to suck up with them. You do need to continue to work with them. And from all appearances that I've seen, what he stated remains in place. They're not going to be getting any financial incentive dollars from the Commerce Authority. However, they do still have a job creation deal in place with the city of Goodyear. Folks, this is what happens when big business is in bed with big government. Political concerns and business concerns are tied together inextricably. Which is why, Governor Ducey, nobody should be getting these big fat incentive dollars from the taxpayers. You shouldn't have to bribe a company to come do business in Arizona. Should concentrate further on making Arizona the most competitive atmosphere for them to do business in, and leave it at that. We're not going to bow to the... No, you shouldn't bow to anybody. You should walk into the room with your head held high as equals. You shouldn't be sucking up to businesses. There shouldn't be any opportunity for you to suck up to businesses. This is not the way the government is supposed to work, Kit. I mean, it's very aggravating when you go to the state capitol and, you know, you got your lobbyists. Here in Arizona, it's like your lobbyists for Intel. Here in Arizona, you have your lobbyists for Lockheed Martin, for Honeywell. We have these great big manufacturers here, and it's great. We love having these big businesses here, but they might as well have an office in the Capitol building because of how often these lobbyists are there. It becomes frustrating. Here in Arizona, we have a company called APS. It's our power company, one of them. We have APS and we have SRP. I'm under APS. And APS has a very bad habit of buying commissioners who are regulatory agents over them. The County Board of Commissioners, or County Board of Supervisors, I believe it is. And there's a river of dark money that runs through this state in order to make that work. In 2014, New Arizona, in 2019, February, Arizona Corporation Commissioner Sandra Kennedy wants to force APS into an investigation of dark money. This is off of the Phoenix New Times. Because in 2014, they funneled something like $24 million of dark money into getting solar regulated by the state. Now, according to a memo she filed and docketed on Tuesday, she's the only Democrat on the board, which makes it kind of hard for me to point to something she's doing and be happy about it. But if she's trying to expose the dark money BS that APS has been piling on the state of Arizona's customers for decades, then I have to cheer that, and that's nonpartisan. Now, there's been an ongoing effort by Bob Burns, another commissioner, to investigate ties between APS's campaign spending and the regulatory decisions of commissioners. Kennedy was elected in November. She requested the utility company provide financial and regulatory documents from 2013 through 2018. She wants to see the forms filed with the Regulatory Commission, 10-Ks filed with Securities and Exchange, and she wants to look over Pinnacle West's annual reports to shareholders, transcripts of earning calls, all that. She said she's also offering the opportunity to any of her fellow commissioners to sign the subpoenas. Now, Pinnacle West is a publicly traded company. That is the big holding company for APS out here. The documents don't answer the question of whether APS and Pinnacle funneled $3.2 million in dark money in 2014 to political groups that supported Tom Ferraci and Doug Little to the commission last year. Now, the officials at APS Pinnacle West have neither confirmed nor denied that their companies were the source of the funding to the political groups in 2014. But this is a big question. When a publicly traded company has purview and has jurisdiction over a public service, a semi-monopolized public service like electricity, you really have to ask yourself, do they have the same rights as a normal corporation would to campaign spending and to lobbying? Or do you give something up in that respect? I think we need a little bit less government hands-on business and a little bit less business hands-on government here. Because there's an unholy alliance here between APS and the Board of Commissioners in the state of Arizona. And it's sick. It really is sick. And it's pretty scary when I see a Democrat is making the most progress here. I mean, granted, she's following up on another investigation from Commissioner Burns. But good on you, Sandra Kennedy. The only Democrat on the board, and you're actually doing something. I can appreciate you for that. Doesn't mean I'm going to vote for you, but I can at least appreciate you for that. Oh, goodness. So moving right along here. When we come back from the break, we're going to jump over the pond. We need to talk about this ongoing election happening in the UK to determine the next prime minister. It's looking like Boris Johnson is going to wind up being the prime minister of the UK. And it's looking like we're seeing some inroads between Boris Johnson and Trump. At least that's according to Slate. This week in Brexit, Boris sides with Trump. Because if you remember, we actually got rid of our British ambassador. I say we got rid of. President Trump said he won't work with him. So he resigned. Because he had some very uncharitable things to say about the Trump administration. And you can't really trust somebody to work with them as allies when they're going to turn around and stab you in the back to their own bosses across the pond. Can you? So we'll come to that when we get back here from a quick break. You're listening to the HoloNet on the Mighty Mojo 50. We had a little technical difficulties earlier with our video. Hopefully we've got that lined back up. But in the event that we wind up having some problems with it, before we go, I want to tell you about Patriot Mobile. Patriot Mobile's got a great event going right now this month. We know that Google and YouTube aren't just silencing conservatives online. They're also manipulating the algorithms to interfere with the 2020 election. Meanwhile, big mobile companies are taking the proceeds from your mobile phone bill and are funding progressive candidates and causes. This includes promoting illegal immigration, like we saw last night, abortion, and gun control. We have only one way to preserve the Constitution and the values which made our country great, and that's to stick together. This means supporting each other's causes and companies. Leading the charge against this is veteran-led Patriot Mobile. With unlimited plans starting as low as $25 per month, get the same crystal clear nationwide service with a portion of your bill going to support the causes you believe in. Come on over to patriotmobile.com. Switching is easy. You'll get a free month of service when you use promo code COMEONOVER. Since 2015, they've used over $2 million to support the Constitution and the values we believe in, but we have a long way to go. You have a choice. Come on over today. patriotmobile.com. Promo code COMEONOVER. Make it happen. All right, folks. Now, if you don't know where to find the HoloNet, we are on mojo50.com/profiles/theholonet, or you can just browse around, find us on mojo50.com, www.theholonet.com, facebook.com/holonet, on the Twitters @theholonet, also on the Gab, on the Minds, on the MeWe's, the BitChutes, the YouTubes, and also now on Parlay. You can find us at the HoloNet. We're going to be back. Stick around.
Allied reinforcements have arrived from the west.
You're listening to the Holonet on Mojo 50 Radio. The millennial conservative resistance begins right here, right now.
Oh, yes, this is Cowboys, children of all ages. The new millennial conservative resistance does indeed begin right here, right now with you. We are back. You're listening to the Holonet on the mighty Mojo 50. Now, as I said, we need to take a look at some of these events happening in the UK because we haven't really addressed them in a couple of weeks. But it looks like Boris Johnson is edging ever closer to becoming the presumptive Prime Minister of the UK. Good news is he seems to be siding with President Trump on a majority of issues. Also, the good news is he seems to back a no-deal Brexit. So, both good things. I mean, this is a guy who, as former mayor of London, definitely has an axe to grind against the progressive left that resulted in Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, who is arguably one of the worst influences on British politics that has been seen in quite some time. Yeah, the whole issue with Sadiq Khan is he has this notion of London being an international city, of London not being an English city anymore. And if you want to hear some great analysis of this and takedown of this on Sadiq Khan, you can check out Sargon of Akkad on YouTube. That's who I would recommend to keep abreast of British politics. But in the meanwhile, we're going to take a look at the story, and we're going to jump over the pond. Let the demonetization process begin! Jump over to the Slate review right now. But first, actually, we're gonna take a little background here. We're gonna look at this British ambassador who Trump says he will no longer deal with him. This comes from the Washington Post, God help us. This is from the 8th. President Trump said Monday the United States would no longer deal with the British ambassador who disparaged his administration. In a cache of diplomatic cables leaked and published over the weekend, Ambassador Kim Duroc described the Trump White House as, quote, inept, dysfunctional, and unpredictable. Trump tweeted his displeasure Monday and more than hinted that he is looking forward to a change. I do not know the ambassador, but he is not liked or well thought of within the U.S. We will no longer deal with him. Now, if you don't know too much about ambassadorial duties and things of that nature, ambassadors serve at the pleasure of both their government and the government that they are representing too. So the president has the constitutional duty and choice to receive ambassadors and ministers plenipotentiary, as they used to be called, from other nations. So if the president of the United States determines that he cannot work with and cannot move forward with the ambassador of a foreign nation, he is fully within his power to disinvite them from being an ambassador to the United States and requesting that a replacement be deployed. So, that seems to be what has gone on here. He said the good news for the wonderful United Kingdom is that they will soon have a new Prime Minister. The British Embassy on the 8th declined to comment. A statement from Prime Minister Theresa May's office said the leaks, quote, do not reflect the closeness of and the esteem in which we hold the relationship. Basically, 10 Downing Street trying to do damage control. The statement said Duroc retained the Prime Minister's full support, and a spokesman stressed that May did not share her ambassador's critiques. But May's on her way out. She's been shoved from power by her own party for her failure to deliver on Brexit, and so there was speculation in the British political circles about whether the leak might have been designed to push the Europhile Duroc, who has been a long-term supporter of the European Union, out of Washington before his term is up 2020, to be replaced by someone more to Trump's liking when a new prime minister forms a new government later in this month. They say Trump provoked controversy once before by weighing in on British diplomatic postings when he suggested Nigel Farage would be a great representative for the UK in the United States. I would agree, Nigel Farage would be a fantastic representative for the UK and would represent the interests of a Brexit-freed UK better, I think, than anybody else. But Kim Duroc has since announced his resignation, Let me see if I can pull that up for you. And the UK police have now begun an investigation into the leak that led to all of this. And The Guardian is reporting his fall from grace has cast a chill over Washington ambassadors. Fellow envoys have made similar observations for the Trump administration and deplore the lack of support from Boris Johnson for their UK counterpart. Now, the reason they're saying this, let's go to Slate. This week in Brexit, Boris sides with Trump. Brexit itself remains in a holding pattern until the end of this month when the Conservative Party membership selects the next Prime Minister. Again, very, very likely to be former London Mayor Boris Johnson. But there's still plenty of developments this week giving a sense of how things might look. This week in Washington, the downfall of the British government's man in Washington this week wasn't directly Brexit related, but it's hard to imagine it happening quite the same way in any other political context. Kim Durock, who has served as ambassador to the United States since 2016, resigned this week after Daily Mail published excerpts of diplomatic cables which gave his blunt, though hardly shocking, assessments of the Trump administration's dysfunction, which then prompted the president to unleash a barrage of angry tweets toward him and Theresa May. Because you don't talk smack about the government you've been sent to represent. It's a bad idea. Given that the White House was effectively freezing him out, Durock may have had to resign anyway, but the death blow came in a televised debate on Tuesday between the two finalists in the race for Prime Minister, Boris Johnson and Jeremy Hunt. Hunt, the current former Foreign Secretary, backed Durock and said he would keep him in position, but Johnson, the heavy favorite, refused several opportunities to make the same pledge. Durock resigned the next day. So in other words, Durock saw the writing on the wall. Boris Johnson is going to be the next PM of the UK, and he doesn't have support. According to the Times, May is considering naming Durock's replacements as one of her last acts in office, but most likely the decision will fall to her replacement. While the incident is unlikely to affect the outcome of the race, Johnson's critics are pointing to it as an example of him siding with his political ally, President Donald Trump, over a veteran diplomat who was just doing his job. I'm a little torn on this one, and I mean, I'll reach out to, the HoloNet operatives here and the jackholes out in Mojo land, relaxing and reclining alongside the mighty flowing Mojo River. What do you guys think about this? Now let's flip it. All right, let's put the shoe on the other foot. Let's say that an American diplomat to the UK fired back at us that Theresa May, they reported back to us, Theresa May's government is inept. They're completely out of their depth. They don't know what they're doing. There's chaos at 10 Downing Street. They can't get anything done in Parliament. And Brexit is going nowhere. In other words, exactly the truth. So they're telling us the complete and total truth, at least as they see it. Conversely, I think Kim Durock has been rather unfavorable to President Trump in describing his White House and rather unkind because his values clash with the president so much, but we'll get into depth with that later. But anyway, let's say hypothetically our ambassador to the UK gave a similar scathing report of the goings-on at 10 Downing Street and in Parliament, and it got leaked that our ambassador was bad-mouthing the British government to Washington, D.C. Now, I'm sitting here saying I would fully expect our ambassador to get canned by the UK. I would fully expect it. I would expect somebody at the Department of State to come out and say, okay, this ambassador is being reassigned. Because whether you intended to or not, you have damaged the relationship between the two countries. You've created a diplomatic incident, which is the one thing the State Department's not supposed to do. They're supposed to solve for diplomatic incidents, not create them. And it kind of sucks. It's subject to the requirement of the service that if a screw-up like this happens under your watch, if there's a leak from your office of these diplomatic cables, from your office back to your home country, and it lands on page 1 of the Daily Mail, that you're talking a bunch of smack about the government you're supposed to be representing your own government to, you've lost the ability to conduct those discussions. You've lost the ability to represent your government effectively, because that's going to be hanging over your head for all time. So it doesn't come down to, oh, Boris Johnson refused to support him. No. This guy, after his own fashion, despite having an extremely unfavorable opinion of the Trump administration, which I disagree with, was doing his job. But unfortunately, he got caught. And it damaged their relationship. And the only way to move forward is with somebody else out the wheel. Does it suck? Yes, it sucks. That's diplomacy, baby. If you can't play the game, you shouldn't be there in the first place. The ambassador understood fully. The second that page one story and the Daily Mail dropped, that it was going to be his. He understood that fully. He knew that he was on the line and that odds were he was going to need to resign or be dismissed. And President Trump made the only reaction that President Trump could. This was an insult to the United States, saying that we are inept at running our own country, that the people we elected are insufficient, are foolish, and that casts aspersion on the American public, not just on President Trump, not just on the White House. That is a national shame. And to save face on the international level, President Trump had to come out swinging against Kim Durok. It is expected. So everybody hooting and hollering over this, it's a big blow up over nothing. Now, I think Boris Johnson here has been very shrewd in realizing, yeah, our guy screwed up, so he needs to be replaced. So I'm not going to throw in support behind him. And I think that Jeremy Hunt is in a desperate scramble to go after some red meat and paint an adversarial relationship between 10 Downing Street and the White House, and it's going to backfire on him. We're going to have Prime Minister Boris Johnson. He's going to be more favorable to pro-American relations rather than pro-European relations, as Jeremy Hunt would, and he's going to deliver Brexit, and they're going to deliver a favorable trade treaty between the United States and the UK, and that's going to be that. Kim Durok is going to be out on his arse. He's going to wind up getting some other cushy gig in the Ministry of State. I'm sorry, the Foreign Ministry. And his life's going to go on, and we're going to get a new ambassador to the United States. I really do hope it winds up being Nigel Farage. If he takes the job, he might tell him to piss off. It would still be cool. So all this hubbub over nothing, this is electoral politics in the UK bleeding over into the US. And like I said, if the shoe were on the other foot, President Trump wouldn't be calling on us to back up our ambassador. He'd be calling for the ambassador's head, metaphorically speaking. He'd be calling for his job. The ambassador would be dismissed because at the end of the day, one way or another, you failed. Instead of your office solving diplomatic issues, your office created the diplomatic issue through a report that you issued. And the fact that you couldn't maintain good security on your diplomatic cables. One way or another, Kim Durok failed. And that failure cost him his job. Sorry, Kim. But want to take you a little trip with me. And I told you about the mighty Mojo River, the mighty flowing Mojo River in Dallas, Texas. Been there myself. Been on the banks of the Mojo River. And you know what is great when you're walking around the Mojo River? Having a good sturdy pair of flip-flops. Have you been on combatflipflops.com yet? Get on combatflipflops.com. Combat Flip-Flops. Discount code HOLLOW25. HOLLOW25. Combat Flip-Flops. Their goal is to create peaceful, forward-thinking opportunities for self-determined entrepreneurs affected by conflict. Their willingness to take bold risks, community connection, and distinct designs communicate business, not bullets, flipping the view on how wars are won. Through persistence, respect, and creativity, they empower the mindful consumer to manufacture peace through trade. You know, when I grew up, it was peace through superior firepower. Now it's peace through trade. It's time to employ the power of industry, of the free market, of entrepreneurialism, to grow businesses in these conflict areas like Afghanistan, build communities, fund women's education. Women were horrifically uneducated under the iron grip of the Taliban. As much as the left tries to proclaim that women are victims in the United States, it's nothing compared to what the women of Afghanistan went through under Taliban rule. Now, the tagline for Combat Flip-Flops is join the unarmed forces. Be a part of a community built on hope, passion, and strength. Rebuild nations, not through government again, but through the power of commerce, of trade, of business. Or we can keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect a different result, which is the definition of insanity. We're not in the business of nation building as a country. No, we need to be in the business of nation building as consumers and as entrepreneurs. You can be that change. Combat Flip-Flops creates peaceful, forward-thinking opportunities for entrepreneurs affected by conflict. Business, not bullets, is how wars are going to be won. Through persistence, respect, creativity, they empower the mindful consumer, as I said, to encourage peace through trade. They're a team with a passion for making cool in dangerous places. They hope that you'll try their flip-flops and their approach to helping Afghanistan, Colombia, and Laos and supporting our troops. They've grown from an idea to a globally recognized brand with a mission to create lasting change in the world. As they push forward, they'll continue communicating the positive impact the purchases you make on the factory workers, their growing economy, and the communities that we build these factories in. Now, Combat Flip-Flops again, Hollow25, HOLLOW25. Every purchase you make, a bit of that money goes toward paying for the secondary education of a woman in a war-torn area like Afghanistan and making communities in Afghanistan, Colombia, and Laos better. Because what Combat Flip-Flops does, they buy up these old factories that made war material, that made combat boots for Soviet troops, and they repurpose them into making flip-flops and shirts and apparel and cool stuff. I want to get the Flopperators. Hop on there, check it out. 25% off with your promo code HOLLOW25. All right, then. So, ready for your episode today of What the CNN's Ducey and Media Matters have attacked the extremists at the White House summit. If you didn't hear about it, there's a White House summit held by President Trump, a social media White House summit. Rob Eno, great writer we often refer to at the place, he says, WTF mainstream media. In a newsletter that puts a dose of sunlight on the mainstream media and exposes how the media twists facts, selectively report, you can sign up for WTF. Okay, I'm not going to plug you, dude. But anyway, in Thursday's newsletter, he wrote about CNN's chief anti-conservative activist, Oliver Ducey's attempts to paint the White House social media summit as a gathering of extremists. Listen to this list of ne'er-do-wells, of extremists, of radicals. Listen to this. Carpe Dunctum. It's a meme maker online. Conservative radio host Bill Mitchell. Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk. Right-wing propaganda channel Prager University. Pro-Trump cartoonist Ben Garrison, whose invitation has since been rescinded. Human events publisher Will Chamberlain. Media Research Center founder Brent Bozell. Conservative think tank Heritage Foundation. Students for Trump co-founder Ryan Fournier. Right-wing personality Ali Akbar, also known as Ali Alexander. Citizen journalist James O'Keefe. Representative Matt Getz. Senator Marsha Blackburn. Right-wing commentator Tim Pool. Turning Point USA Chief Creative Officer Benny Johnson. Gateway Pundit founder Jim Hoft. Fringe social media platforms Mind.com, conservative singer Joy Villa, anti-abortion activist Lila Rose, and YouTube conspiracy theorist Mark Deese. This is how Media Matters listed this group. Listen to this group of extremists, these radicals, these ne'er-do-wells. Got that? To Media Matters, the Heritage Foundation, the Media Research Center, Human Events Publisher, and Prager University are considered extremists. Okay?
They also listed a sitting congressman and a Republican senator as extremists, and a discredited, quote-unquote, citizen journalist, James O'Keefe. When was James O'Keefe discredited? I thought that his work has continued to be profoundly impactful and valuable. Oh my God. Folks, the language is being shifted. I am so glad that President Trump is having this summit, or had this summit rather, because no one is standing up. No one is standing up and fighting for conservatives' right to exist online, except for groups like Mojo 50 and others like us. This is why it is so important and why your support is so critical. Because rational, reasonable people are now being labeled as extremists. Dennis Prager, for God's sakes. Dennis Prager? Charlie Kirk from Turning Point USA? I don't know if you ever heard this guy talk. If you've ever heard him speak, he's incredibly reasonable. Very straightforward, very direct, very well-read. It's coming down to the honest conception that the other side has to be living on another planet or in some sort of parallel reality in order for them to accept these things as being true. But before we get too far down the rabbit hole there, by the way, you can check out that link. I'll leave it in the description of just what they think of us on the right. Apparently, Prager University is a right-wing propaganda channel, right up there with Pravda. Anyway, I did want to kind of close out the show with a couple of things that will cheer you right the heck up. And I got a couple of minutes left here, so we're going to do it. Quick little story from Fox. Dems lose patience with complete fraud AOC. Rally to Pelosi's side. Not going to read the whole thing, just going to give you some highlights here. But a senior unnamed Democratic source told Fox News on Friday, she is a complete fraud, succinctly summing up members' frustration. Her comments toward Pelosi were so inappropriate. Her peers do not take her seriously. They think it is absurd to call the speaker racist, offensive and absurd. I would disagree, but maybe not as overtly racist as AOC is implied. Now, here's where it gets ugly. She has no power, despite her immense Twitter following and her unique ability at times to command the news cycle. She is a nobody. She is a freshman member of Congress with no power. She is not worth the speaker's brain power, the source said, accusing her of starting needless distractions from serious issues, skipping meetings and conference calls in favor of media interviews, tweets, and glamour. In this building, it is about how many others you can bring along to your side. She maybe has 2 members, sometimes 4. The comment came as prominent members of the Congressional Black Caucus sided with Pelosi. It is such a weak argument to say she is being picked on, and that 4 women of color were being picked on by the speaker, Rep. William Lacey Clay, Democrat of Missouri, a member of the CBC, said Thursday night. It shows their lack of sensitivity to racism. To fall back on that trope is a weak argument. It has no place in a civil discussion. Clay added, it's going to take a process of maturing for these freshman members. They will have to learn to be effective legislators. The feud between AOC and Pelosi escalated after Congress passed a border funding bill that Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, and Rashida Tlaib and Ayanna Pressley all opposed. In the interview last week, Pelosi told the New York Times that all these people have their public whatever and their Twitter world, but they don't have any following. They're 4 people. That's how many votes they've got. The Washington Post said the persistent singling out by the speaker was outright disrespectful and affected, quote, newly elected women of color. But on Friday, when asked by Fox News how she would respond to criticism of playing the race card against Pelosi, AOC fired back, What? That's stupidly untrue. So, read the whole story. It's hysterical. AOC is in some deep, deep trouble. And that's hot on the heels of just a shellacking that she received from a former head of the DHS. So let me see if I can pull up that video for you. This was amazing what I saw last week. Hang on just a tick. Let me pull this up. So this came out last night. This was all over the Facebooks. Here we go. I'm going to bring that up here for you.
What I'm saying, this is...
Okay, so AOC was not prepared for former ICE Director Thomas Homan. If you want to seek asylum, you go through the port of entry. That's the legal way. Listen to this exchange between the two. It's insane.
What I'm saying, this is not the only paper where we've given the Secretary numerous options to secure the border and save lives.
And so the recommendation, of the many that you recommended family separation.
I recommended zero tolerance.
Which includes family separation.
The same as is with every U.S. citizen parent gets arrested when they're with a child.
Zero tolerance was interpreted as the policy that separated children from their...
If I get arrested for DUI and I have a young child in the car, I'm going to be separated. When I was a police officer in New York and I arrested a father for domestic violence, I separated that father from his
Mr. Homan,
family.
with all due respect, legal asylees are not charged with any crime.
When you're into the country illegally, it's violation 8 United States Code 1325.
Seeking asylum is legal.
If you want to seek asylum, you go through the port of entry, do it the legal way. The Attorney General of the United States has made that clear.
Okay.
Oh my God, that was brutal. That was brutal. I mean, did you catch that? Hang on, I have time.
What I'm saying, this is not the only way to the border and save lives.
And so the recommendation that you recommended...
I recommended zero tolerance.
Okay, I recommended zero tolerance. Boom, mic drop.
All of you!
It's done right there. I recommended zero tolerance. Next clip.
Which includes family separation.
The same as is with every U.S. citizen parent gets arrested when they're with a child.
Boom! Truth bombs! Shots fired. Every parent that gets arrested in the United States gets separated from their children. Likewise, if I get pulled over for a DUI, just like the former Director Homan says, they're going to separate my children from me.
Zero tolerance was interpreted as the policy that's from their...
If I get arrested for DUI and I have a young child in the car, I'm going to be separated. When I was a police officer in New York and I arrested a father for domestic violence, I separated that father from his family.
Mr. Homan, with all due respect...
No, there's no with all due respect in this case. It's over, AOC. If you want to come into this country, do it the right way. If you want to be an asylee, declare it at the border. All right, folks, we are fresh out of time, but it's been a fun show. As always, I want to say good night. God bless you. God bless the United States of America. Keep our government small. Keep government out of business and the other way around. And just uphold the law and be great people. God bless you. God bless the United States of America. End transmission.